Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Yehi keci bhikkave samanava brahmanava evang rupang abhiññāya evang rupa samudayang abhiññāya evang rupa nirodhang abhiññāya evang rupa nirodhagamini patipadang abhiññāya rupassa nibbidāya virāgāya nirodhāya patipanna te supatipanna ye supatipanna te imasming dhamma vinaye gādanti iti. Dear Venerable Brother, dear Dhamma friends, so we started talking on Upadana Parivatta Sutta, which is available in the Khanda Sangyutta. Basically, this sutta, as we discussed, deeply explains about the 5 aggregates. And as we discussed yesterday, so these aggregates give a very interesting perspective about our experiences. So typically all our experiences, when we are going through, we are very much like adhering to them, we attach to them, we hold to them, and we perceive as a person. We perceive everything as an individual, as I, myself. So that is how we are going through various experiences. But Buddha, on the other hand, helping us to give a deeper understanding to what's really going on, and then give us another way of looking at things. And we started yesterday with the Rupa Khanda, Rupa Upadana Khanda, how we can perceive this clinging aggregate of form, or the form clinging aggregate. Now typically we know everything what is available physical is very much belongs to this aggregate. So it may be internal, it may be external. So all the physical matter, we can say, belong to this form aggregate. And but anyway, just theoretical understanding is not enough. And as we discussed yesterday, even going through various experiments, even to this planet or to the outer space, and finding out various information, scientific findings with respect to this form aggregate, still it is not something that Buddha is expected. It's not that we are trying to do a scientific research into matter and finding out the best information or more information. Then we refer, okay, I know the form aggregate. It is not the approach. That's a little amount of finding is there, research is there, we can say investigation is there, but the objective of that investigation is different from what the scientists are doing. So as you know, even today, scientists are going through various experiments, research, and they are, in a way, we can say, experts in this physical matter. But none of them get enlightened. But here, on the other hand, so Buddha's approach, a fair amount of investigation is there, but the approach is leading to kind of dispassion, letting go, abandonment, and unattached, letting go of to the form aggregate. So therefore, whatever we are doing, whatever we are experimenting or investigating, if it is doing in the proper way, the way as the Buddha described, so it has to lead to a dispassion within our mind. So that's why in this experiment what we are going through, the various apparatus are not involved. So you are not coming with a microscope or any other instrument to do this experiment. Rather, so your own body is enough. So our own body is enough for us to realize Dhamma in a way, isn't it? So that is in a way very interesting approach. So how we can use this very body rather than to say increase defilements, how are we going to use it to decrease defilement? How are we going to overcome defilements? In one situation, actually, we can remember how Buddha even asked us to use this body or oneself as a refuge and nothing else as a refuge. So one occasion Buddha was living in Belua, the village called Belua, and he is spending his final days in his Buddha's life. And at that moment, he was utterly sick, and Venerable Ananda was really disappointed what's happening to Buddha, because he is spending severely ill, and Venerable Ananda couldn't even memorize, he couldn't work, he can't understand Dhamma, because he was so attached to Buddha, Venerable Ananda. And Buddha anyway decided, okay, it's not proper for me to pass away without informing the monks and the attendants, so I better spend a little bit more time without passing away. So he make a kind of a determination, and through his own psychic powers, and he has overcome that disease. So the next day, so he recovered from his illness, and next day he actually was taking a rest on the shadow of the pagoda. There seems to be a pagoda at that time. It is called in this Belua village. So in that particular place, it's mentioned in the Gilana Sutta in Satipatthana Sangyutta. So Buddha is taking a little rest after recovering from his grave illness. And Venerable Ananda noticed the Buddha, and he approached the Buddha, and he was telling, Bhante, I was so relieved seeing that you have recovered. So while you were seriously ill, I couldn't even recognize the directions. I can't memorize, I couldn't recall the Dhamma. And I was completely puzzled or perplexed. But anyway, I had a kind of a thought that you may not pass away without teaching the final teaching. So then Buddha say, what are you expecting from me, Ananda? So do you think that the Tathagata has a teacher's fist? You know the teacher's fist, Guru Mushti? So then Buddha say, Ananda, I don't have any teacher's fist. Everything what is necessary for enlightenment, everything what is necessary to be free from suffering, I have revealed everything. I have taught you everything. Nothing hidden in me. And he make a very interesting statement there. So Ananda, Atta Deepa Viharata Atta Sarana Ananya Sarana. Dhamma Deepa Dhamma Sarana Ananya Sarana. So Ananda, you have to be a refuge unto yourself. Nothing else. You have to take refuge onto Dhamma, nothing else. So how are you going to make a refuge onto yourself? Nothing else. Expecting nothing from outside. How are you going to take refuge unto the Dhamma? Not from anything else. Ida bhikkave bhikkhu kāye kāyanupassī vihirati ātāpi sampajāno satimā vinaya loke abhijjā domanassa. So he is pointing out four Satipatthanas. So this is the way he says that how you are going to take refuge. You have to take refuge onto yourself. It is not coming from external sources. So this is the refuge. And Buddha is telling this at his last days. So here in these five aggregates, therefore the first aggregate we can fairly understand by going through the first Satipatthana, we can call as Kayanupassana. So yesterday we discussed to some extent how we can going through the elements meditation, where we are deeply trying to understand the form aggregate. So different aspects of form aggregate are there, but now we are into the more subtle aspects. So as we discuss, so how are we going to directly experience this form aggregate? So one can say, okay, you can take a scientific instrument and then you can look at the color, the shape, atoms, particles, so many things are there. So is this the approach are we going to do? No. So we are going to use this very body to understand the form aggregate. As I mentioned, it is the term referred here is called abhiññāya. So that means you are directly in contact with the form aggregate. It is not that you are using a separate external apparatus to look at something external, but what is happening within this very body is something you are directly connecting. So kind of an interesting approach. So typically what we do in an operation or in a kind of an experiment, so we are having some sophisticated instruments and then the external phenomena are there. So using those sophisticated instruments, so we are doing kind of an experiment. But here, so what is the sophisticated instrument that a yogi would have? We can say the mindfulness, the mindfully collected, concentrated mind. That's enough. So therefore, when you are going to a forest, you don't need to take anything physical. Any physical instrument are not necessary. But anyway, we need to prepare the mind in a way. We need to properly align the mind. So the basic requirements are there still. It is not that we can immediately start the research. Rather, say we need to have a fairly calm, relaxed mind, one sense. It has to be well collected. And moment by moment, it has to pay attention without any distraction. And then we are looking at this very body objectively. As we discussed, allowing the body to manifest as it like. And then we are step back and watching it, observing it, investigating it. So as we discuss in this experiment, so we are coming across different stages. Say for example, as we discussed yesterday, say for example, we are taking the walking meditation. So we allow the body to walk naturally. In the natural speed, we are allowing the body to walk. And as it walks, so how about looking at it objectively, rather than thinking that I am walking, I am in Kalalgoda, so and so. How about allowing the body to walk naturally and looking at it from a outsider's point of view? How about allowing the body to breathe naturally and looking at from a distance, maintaining a little distance, unattached mindset and looking at it, like you going to a hospital and seeing a patient lying down on a bed and how he is breathing. So you are not going to interrupt him. So similarly, so we allow the body to naturally breathe, but we now being outside, we are watching it. Outside in the sense, we are not trying to, using some kind of a mechanism going to have this outside perspective. Rather, we allow the body to naturally breathe and slowly. So you get that proper balance as you are practicing. So I am not interrupting the process. I am not interfering in the process. So the process happening naturally, as much as possible naturally. And you are observing it carefully. So similarly, the body is walking and now you are observing it. So the first perspective, what would we get is how this body walks. Maybe like a skeleton, like a robot, like pedaling a bicycle, or maybe rowing a boat. So likewise, a very simplified perspective you may get how this body is moving from this end to the other end, from this end to the other end. So kind of a simplified perception. So that is something you can understand. So we have let go of all the many different kinds of terms, maybe concepts, explanations, descriptions, so many things what we were gathered in our head. So all are being let go of. Now what you see is a very simplified perception. A body is simply walking from this end to the other end, and that is also very much like kind of pedaling a bicycle. Kind of a robot simply moving from this end to the other end. Kind of rowing a boat, something like that. And later, now you are further carefully paying your attention to what you feel. So the various sensations are there. As we discussed, so probably you feel the hardness of the flow, softness of the flow, maybe smoothness, maybe heaviness, lightness, then maybe the fluidity, maybe heat, maybe cold, the movements, vibrations. Now these are very fundamental characteristics ultimately we are going to experience. And when we when we are observing these fundamental characteristics, and you don't need even a word. So mind may be utterly calm, relaxed, no thoughts even, and you are carefully observing all these subtle characteristics. So that is why they are called element characteristics. And so this is a kind of a Buddha's way of looking at this materiality. So the explanation given in this sutta, Chattarocha Mahabhuta. So the four great elements. So how we are recognizing their function is through these element characteristics. So while walking, you are experiencing how they are manifesting. Time to time, different elements are showing themselves. It is not that forcefully you are trying to get anything. Rather, we simply allow the body to move naturally. But these characteristics are constantly manifesting themselves. That is very natural. And even while sitting, say, body is constantly operated through these four elements. And so constantly these characteristics are available within this body. So the available concentration within you is capable of recognizing these characteristics now. Because now you are able to sort of collect yourself, your attention being collected to the body. So these manifestations of the elements are readily available to you. Previously we couldn't recognize them. Why? Why we couldn't recognize them previously? Isn't it because that these characteristics were not manifesting? Why? Our minds are completely distracted. I mean, this was operating constantly, from the beginning, from the inception. But we were utterly distracted. But now, so we have a kind of a collected mind. So as a result of that, so mind associates the body. So when mind associates the body, now he can recognize, reveal these characteristics, constantly, coming up, constantly operating. So it's very much like a factory. So as you are recognizing them, so as we just discussed, typically around maximum, we can say 12 characteristics are there. That's more than enough. And it is not necessary to cover all these 12 either. So as much as possible. So when your mind is fairly concentrated and you are paying very close attention, so many of these characteristics may be available to you and you are observing them as much as possible. So this is one stage. Even this understanding is giving you a lot of dispassion because you are looking at it objectively. Even though you call it as my body, but now it is very much like kind of a process is going on. All these different elements are manifesting by themselves due to various causes. But seeing it, looking at it, you feel more detached. So that's the nature. And when you are seeing it more and more, you feel more dispassionate. Previously, by looking at this body through a mirror, you didn't get any kind of a dispassion. You may even become passionate. You can even become conceited. But now, allowing the body to naturally walk or sit and you watching it from an objective point of view, you become more dispassionate. And sometimes you might feel that the whole body gets scattered. So these things also can happen. I am not telling that everybody has to go through all these things, but time to time, certain yogis even can go through that kind of a situation that previously you feel this body is like a compact shape. Say once you sit and close your eyes, you might get a perception, okay, this body is like this, head is here, neck is there, shoulders is here, hands are there. So kind of a solid, rock-like thing, and it's a very solid form. But as you continue this elements meditation, everything can fall apart. All may break into pieces. It's a kind of a insight that you might get sometimes. And another stage is, so as you are now observing each and every these element characteristics, later you may understand they are all showing some common characteristic. Say for example, hardness. So hardness appears and only momentarily it is available and then it disappears. Say a movement. A movement starts and after a moment it again disappears. Maybe heat. Heat also appears and then momentarily it disappears. So are they really some particles, or are they really something tangible, or what is it? Can we put a noun to it or a verb to it? What would be the best way of putting it? So typically when we are putting a noun, why are we putting a noun to something? It remains solid, right? It remains constant. How about a verb? It's a kind of an action, isn't it? It's a kind of an action, ongoing process. So you are walking. So walking is an action. Raining, it's a kind of an action, activity. So all these, say, element characteristics, are they nouns or actions? What do you think? Seems like actions, right? So they are not something solid. Even though we call it as earth element, water element, air element, heat element, for the easy reference, but when you are experiencing them properly, you may understand they are not something constant. They are not something kind of, say, solid. They are very much like waves, like energies, constantly changing. And you yourself have to recognize that. By observing carefully each and every these different particles, rather different, say, their manifestations, and as a result of that, you may understand, irrespective of the element, they all are showing same characteristic, common characteristic, what we call as the Sankata Lakkana, momentary characteristics. So Buddha very beautifully highlighted that in one sutta called Sankata Lakkana Sutta. Tinimani bhikkave sankatani sankata lakkanani upado panyayati vayo panyayati titassa anyatattam panyayati. Monks, whatever is conditioned are showing three characteristics. Arising can be seen, passing away can be seen, in between constant change can be seen. So by observation, through your careful investigation, you may understand this now. Irrespective of the matter, irrespective of the, say, the name, so everything is showing the same story, telling the same story. They are behaving in the similar fashion, arising, passing away, arising, passing away, arising, momentary existence, and then passing away, very much like that. So this is another stage in your practice, if you are coming to Dhatu Manasikara. So when you are going through that, furthering of your practice is further enhancement of these understandings, these insights. Sometimes you may feel a thorough understanding about the impermanence, how impermanent this whole, say, materiality, this whole form aggregate, how impermanent it is. And when you are seeing the impermanence, you may understand how vulnerable it is. As Buddha said, so ruppatitiko bhikkave rupang vadami. So it is constantly going through a lot of deformations, changes. It doesn't stay as it is, as constant, constantly changing. And what are the causes to change it? Trivial causes. Even a mosquito bite can change it. Even heat can change it. Say even rain can change it. Even little, bacteria can change it. Even a serpent bite can change it. Very, very trivial reasons can have a great impact to this matter. So by looking at from that angle, so what is the kind of attitude that you are getting? You want to hold it, protect it so that it can't, change? Or you feel kind of, not interested about it, isn't it? I mean, you don't feel it really, lovable and going to explain it to someone, giving a lot of value to it, attaching to it with a lot of lust, greed, or conceited about it. Now all that are gone, but now you have a separation from it. You allow the body to manifest as it like, and you feel like it's not myself. So the anatta, because you understood it is beyond my control. It's constantly arising and passing away, and I can't stop it. And all these different manifestations happen to these different elements are beyond my control. Even though I want, say, earth element to manifest, can you do that? So whatever the manifestation coming out is beyond our control. How it is changing, beyond our control. Now all these things are, in a way, are fairly beyond our control. So you feel, okay, no point of holding to it. No point of calling it as me, myself. So typically we have kind of a wrong attachment, wrong view about it. That's what it is called, the self-view. So we take it as a one bundle, one compact, constant bundle, solid bundle. And we think, okay, this is myself, this is I am. Or at least this belongs to me. Or probably I am within the body, inside the body. Or else you have a larger I, and into that larger self, within that larger self, body is available. So this way, the Sakkaya Ditthi, the personality view, can manifest in 4 different ways, Buddha says. But when you are looking at it more deeply, experientially, again and again, how these things are changing, constantly arising and passing away, now you can't recognize any moment which is constant. Then how are we going to tell I am there? Who is there? So how are we going to have a everlasting, constant self? Because things are all constantly arising and passing away. In that process, how are we going to have a constant, unchanging, everlasting self? So all these different beliefs are now slowly abandoned, and you are more and more understanding the more kind of a reality of the matter. So therefore sometimes, so once you have that kind of a thorough understanding to this internal matter or internal elements, through your inferential knowledge you can say even the outside the same thing. So sometimes even suttas, so that is being highlighted. Yacheva kopana ajjattika patavidhatu, yacha bahira patavidhatu revesa. Whatever the internal earth element, whatever the external earth element, the mere earth element. So all these different elements within the body, are they aware that they are in a female body or male body or a Sri Lankan body? Are they aware they are in a particular sophisticated, so and so's body? So they are all our own value additions. Marketing maybe. You are doing to yourself some marketing and you say, okay, the elements within this body is, the best elements. So all the elements are mere elements. That's right. Nissatto, nijjivo, sunyo. They don't have any kind of a, satta, lasting personality or lasting life faculty, and they are in a way empty. And one occasion Buddha go closer to a river bank and he see a fathom of form. And seeing a form, form, right? And he say, monks, is there any essence, any core in this form? What do you think? Form, when the waves are again and again hitting the river bank, again and again, so it develops a kind of larger form, right? So from an outside, someone might think, oh, it is kind of a rock. But once you go closer and see, oh, it is not a rock. What is inside? Nothing. There is nothing substantial. But it appears like something solid. So Buddha says, same thing. Pena pindupamang rupang. So this whole body is very much like a fathom form. Nothing substantial within. So as we further and further understand, do this, say, elements meditation, so you get this kind of a perspective. Typically what we have is a kind of a compactness view. So this body is something solid, compact, like a rock type of thing. But as you continue with the elements meditation, so it falls apart. And for a person who has thoroughly developed elements meditation, once he closes his eyes, probably now he can't generate that compactness. Everything has broken into pieces. Now, as I mentioned, typically once we close our eyes, you may get a kind of a, perception. Okay, where are the head, where are the shoulders, where are the legs and all these things, kind of a compact body. But once you develop elements meditation, there may be a situation now things are fallen apart. You can't find out a compact body. Some solid compact body is not available now. Everything has become very much like porous. Say when you are standing, when the wind blowing, what happened? Is the wind coming and reflecting everything back? So that's the typical way we think, right? So this is something solid. It can't penetrate. It's not like a net. So everything is, reflected because this is a solid something. But probably you might get a perception. So even though you are standing, everything is penetrating, going through you. Because you can't feel kind of something solid available right now. So these are different ways that you might feel it, by the way. So that solidity, compactness is not available now. And so this body depends on what? Food. So food is something essential. So nowadays, I am also suffering, and I can recognize how vital is the food. So therefore, ahara samudayo, rupa samudaya. So basically, the ahara, the nutrients are essential. Kabalinkara ahara. So the solid food for our maintenance, for this body to sustain, we need solid food. Even looking at that, you can understand how feeble it is, how weak it is. So how long can you survive without food? How long can you survive without water? How long can you survive without oxygen or air? So we can see, everything is so dependent. Even though I am calling myself as a strong personality, blah, 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 very weak. So Buddha pointing out all this for us to have that dispassion, to have the proper perspective. So rather than giving some additional value to this body, now you may understand it is so feeble, so dependent. It needs a lot of other requisites to sustain, to maintain. Without it, it can't survive. Sabbe satta aharattitika. So all these beings dependent on the food. And when food is not available, it can't survive. Now, in order to completely be free from the body, it is not that you are killing yourself. Rather, we need to realize or develop the Noble Eightfold Path. Ayameva ariyo atthangiko maggo rupa nirodha gamini patipada. So when we are developing the Noble Eightfold Path, so you get a proper understanding about the body, say the rupa, the form aggregate. As a result of that, now mind slowly start non-grasping to it, non-clinging to it. So the mind is not being occupied by the bodily phenomena, whatever the physical phenomena. Now say, when you are here, how many times you remember your house? How many times you remember your car parked outside? Somebody might have come and damaged it and, stolen my side mirror. How many times, you remember about your occupation or your bank account, your father, mother, children, husband, wife, house, this and that. So all physical things, what I mean. So that means our minds are fairly occupied with various, the form element. So all different physical things have a fair space, have occupied taken fair space in our mind, isn't it? Say if you close your eyes and if you are paying some attention to breathing, is the breathing only occupying your mind? So that is what we want, isn't it? That's what we want. That's what we want to achieve. When I am paying more close attention to breathing, that's all I want. Let me forget about everything else. So if you are able to arrive that, good. But typically, so when you are not meditating, for example, so a fair amount of space of our minds are being occupied with the form element. So don't think it is earth element coming and occupying. Rather, these are the most fundamental elements. Using those fundamental elements, different forms, shapes, styles are produced, and we have given many interesting names to them, and now our minds are recognizing using those names, labels, and they are occupied in our mind. Say house. What is house? So it's, in a way, if we go more deeper, it's an accumulation of 4 elements, but many parts are there, many components are there, and when everything's are assembled, we have given a name, house. So if you consider your vehicle, okay, wheels are there, engine is there, seats are there, and many components are there, assembled in a particular shape. So we have given a name to that. Okay, this is a car, this is a jeep, this is a bus, this is a van. And you add even a brand name to that. And now it is occupied in your mind. So all these are concepts. So in order to distinctly recognize different components, so we have given so many names, and now our minds are being occupied with these names. It's good that we are not gone insane. Very close. The amount that we need to remember, you see, How many brands of soap is available? How many brands of vehicles are available? So many brands. How many can you remember? Maybe the only ones they are recently showing in the television, paying a lot of money to advertisements. That's the only one maybe occupied in your mind. Everything was forgotten, fortunately. So everything in a way take a substantial space in our mind. So that means, so this form element has occupied in the mind. But through the meditation, slowly, so this occupation become less and less. At the beginning, you are paying close attention to all these different, very subtle aspects of elements, true. But as a result of that, when you know how quickly they are arising and passing away, mind starts detached from that. Rather than holding them, now you can't even find a shape of them. Previously you can recognize, okay, it's a circular, this is a rectangular, this is this color, that color, blah, blah, blah. But now when you are doing elements meditation, all that is gone. Everything very much like mixed. Everything very much like a flux. And now you can't even find a shape. Further disinterested. Further dispassionate about the whole thing. So as a result of that, now mind is readily letting go. And you don't need to force the mind to let go. Mind automatically let go. As a result of that, what happened to the mind? It become lighter. It become free. It become unattached, unassociated with the form element. So each and every section in the Kayanupassana, so therefore Buddha mentioned, Atti kayotiva panassa sati pachupattita hoti. So you see, okay, this is just the form element. I don't need to worry about it. So I am kind of looking at it from a third person's perspective, kind of an outsider's perspective. It's not me, it's not myself. Atti kayotiva panassa sati pachupattita hoti. So you are keeping it at its proper place. Yavadema jnana mattaya patissati mattaya anissitocha viherati nachakinchi loke upadit. And you are further using it to develop insights. Now you are taking it as a refuge in order to develop insight. So that Buddha's advice, use it as a refuge, nothing else, but to develop insights, to develop satipatthana. Furthering your understanding, developing wisdom. What is the result? Anissitocha viherati nachakinchi loke upadita. So now mind become disassociated, completely free from the body. So once you close your eyes, so now various, shadows, images of these different physical components, physical matter or physical, say, things, so-called things, can't occupy the mind now. The clarity of mind has to be remained. Various shadows, various images, mental images of these different, parts, physical parts, if they are not intruding the mind, occupying the mind, so that means fairly you have a fair dispassion towards all this. Does that mean that you can't live in this world? You become kind of a Brahma who is completely in the space? Can't you go back to your home? So these are insights in a way. So that's in a way a beauty. So even though you have some thorough understanding to these elements, still you can switch back to the typical norms, typical terms, typical vocabulary. And you can get into your vehicle and you can drive it and go home. But some insight is operating, by the way, within you. So time to time, unknowingly, because of hate greed, hatred, delusion, unknowingly, you again sometimes mind get occupied with your vehicle. You suppose that you bought it recently, and your mind get occupied with. Now probably you can use that insight to keep it away, and you found it okay. It's kind of burdening the mind. I don't need it. I don't want to hold it. I don't want to attach to it. Let it be in the garage. Why are you holding it in your space, in your mind? Isn't it heavy? So, I mean, if you have so many things crowded in your mind, isn't it heavy? So why are we crowding our minds, cluttering our minds with all these physical things? Can't we have the clarity of the mind? Can't we have very, clear mind, a sharp vision? Why are we having all these different blockages in a way to our vision? Now say for example, when you are paying close attention to something, how many things are you cutting off? Many things, right? Say you are selecting a particular object and paying close attention to that. So your mind, the focus has fairly narrowed down to that. You are established there. But on the other hand, if your mind is not located anywhere, but not jumping from this to the other, but have a kind of open awareness, what do you think? Which one is better? So this anisita anupadana state does not mean that you become blind. You become completely unaware. You may become fully aware, but mind is not occupied with any of the, the images, any of these components, any of these things, as we can say. Ditte ditta mattam bhavisati. So you can see still, but your mind is not disturbed by the sights. Sute sutta mattam bhavisati. You can still hear various things, but the peacefulness retains in the mind. Mute mutta mattam bhavisati. Say through your nose you can recognize various smells, but mind remains calm. Mind is not disturbed by the smell. Mind does not occupy by the smell. Mind does not go and mix with the smell and talk with the smell, make a story about the smell. And you can recognize various tastes, you can recognize various tangible objects, but mind remains calm without getting mixed up with all these. So it's a kind of a incredible skill that the mind is having in a way. We didn't even recognize that. So Buddha is giving certain directions to this kind of a very extraordinary skill that the human mind has. So through these practices, so one can reach such kind of incredible capacity. So even though you see, the sights are not occupying the mind. Previously, say whenever you see something beautiful, immediately you jump to that, start looking at it, take all the different signs, and your mind become completely cluttered because of that. But now, still you can see, but mind remains calm. Still you can hear, mind remains calm. So the clarity of mind is not disturbed. So Buddha therefore mentioned, Yehi kechi bhikkhave samanava brahmanava evang rupang abhiññāya evang rupang rupa samudayang abhiññāya evang rupa nirodhang abhiññāya evang rupa nirodhagamini patipadang abhiññāya rupassa nibbidāya virāgāya nirodhāya patipanna te supatipanna. So whoever is practicing in this way, Buddha mentioned, they are supatipanna. They are in the say proper track, we can say. They are in the proper patipada, proper practice. Ye supatipanna te imasmin dhamma vidaye gādanti. So when they are in the proper practice, they are developing as according to the Dhamma Vinaya, as according to the Buddha's teaching. And they found a kind of a footing to the Dhamma Vinaya. So now their practice is well aligned with the Dhamma Vinaya. Because they understand now I am just talking about the form element. So they understand, they have the proper understanding about the form element. They know how they are arising, constantly arising. They know how they are constantly passing away. As a result of that, they have kind of a dispassion towards them. Nibbidaya, viragaya, and so they have kind of unattached attitude towards that. Viragaya, the kind of fading away with that. Nirodhaya patipanna. And now mind is not occupied with that. So mind remains free from that. Nirodhaya patipanna. Te supatipanna. Ye supatipanna te imasming dhamma vinaye gadhanti. So when they are into that proper practice, Buddha say, so now they have come in line with the Dhamma. What does that mean? They have become a Sotapanna. Now only, very much like aligned with the Dhamma. Previously we are going this way, that way, doing that, doing this, looking at that, not sure about what we are doing. But now, gadhanti, imasming dhamma vinaya gadhanti, now only they understand, okay, this is the proper alignment I need to maintain. They become sure about it. So this is the arriving of the Dhamma. We can say in another term, Satchanubodha, in another sutta, in Chunky Sutta. So previously what we were doing is searching for truth here and there. We were not sure about the truth. In the way we are looking at it, probably the truth may be available but might not be available. We are not yet sure about it. But as you are continuing your practice, and once you become in line, properly, aligned with the Dhamma and experiencing all these qualities, now only Buddha says, okay, now te imasming dhamma vinaya gadhanti. So they found proper footing to the Dhamma Vinaya. Now, once that is available with respect to this form element, now we need to continue the practice. So as a result of further practice, now mind becomes more and more free from form element. Now even for a short period, the mind is free from the form element, the images of the form element, attachments to the form element, any stands to the form element, maybe certain anusaya, latent tendencies to the form element. Still something is available. Because even though your mind has become aligned, but again it can become disaligned. Now you understood, okay, this is the alignment I need to maintain. But time to time it can shift. So the confirmation happens only when one becomes an arahant. So that is very beautifully explained here in the same sutta. Yechako kechi bhikkave samanava brahmanava evang rupang abhiññāya evang rupa samudayang abhiññāya evang rupa nirodhang abhiññāya evang rupa nirodhagamini patipadang abhiññāya rupassa nibbida viraga nirodha anupada vimutta. Now he is continuing this practice again and again, taking the mind free from this form element, letting go of the form element, again free from the form element. Now he can maintain the mind for a longer time free from form element, without attaching to form element, without clinging to form element for a longer time. Now you are, developing that as a practice. It is not just for a moment, but now you are enhancing it, maximizing it. Anupada vimutta. Now without clinging, without grasping, so your mind is freed. Te suvimutta. So Buddha further highlighted. So his mind is properly freed, utterly freed. Te kevalino. There's an interesting term here, kevalino. It's a kind of a synonym given for the arahant, a kind of a consummate one. Maybe accomplished one, a consummate one. Kevalino. That means completely free. No even any segments, sediments, nothing is there. Completely free. Consummate one. Ye kevalino vattang tesang natti panyapanaya. So once they are completely free, all our, the typical concepts, the proliferations, terms, terminologies, conventions are not applied to them. So there's an interesting dialogue between one Brahmin and the Buddha. Now we are talking something matter, something physical. So he is called Aggivachagotta. And he is arguing with the Buddha about what is going to happen when an arahant pass away. So when he asks, is the arahant once he passed away, he does not exist? And Buddha say, does not exist is not applicable to him. Then he asks, he exists, that means he exists does not applicable to him. Does that mean exist and does not exist both? Is it that exist and does not exist is not applicable to him? Does that mean not exist, not exist applicable to him? Not applicable to him. All different ways of putting it. Hoti tathagato parammarana, na hoti tathagato parammarana, hoticha nohoticha tathagato parammarana, neva na hoti, neva no hoti tathagato parammarana. All these, different ways of putting at things. And Buddha says that terminology does not applicable to him. Then he get utterly confused by the answer. And he say, Bhante, I had some kind of a faith in you, but with this answer I got properly, utterly messed up. I have properly, disgusted about your teaching. Okay, Vacha, I asked you a question. Now say, you can see a fire burning in front of you. Why this fire burns? And he say, okay, Bhante, there are enough fuel available. So we are constantly putting, fire sticks and all that and this. So as a result of that, fire burns. Okay, now Vacha, suppose now you are stop putting the fire, or rather the fuel. Suppose you are not putting any other fire sticks. So what's going to happen? So ultimately, some time back, it will extinguish. Now if I ask you a question, after extinguishment, so where this fire has gone? Has it gone to east direction? Has it gone to west direction? Has it gone to the north direction? Upper direction? Lower direction? Where has it gone? Bhante, the fire has gone to a particular direction is not applicable. So then how are you going to tell it? I could say, without availability of this fuel, it has extinguished. That's all I can say. Same thing what I am telling for the arahant. Not having enough fuel, extinguished. So we have very deeply rooted self-view. We think that there's a person available. So to that person, after passing away, what's going to happen? So that's a question. We have a burning question. So Buddha is telling, this is a fuel available. With this fuel, the ignorance and all these things, you perceive like a person. It is not something substantial available. It is not kind of a concrete self available. Rather, because of this wrong, different, fuel, you perceive as a person. But when those different fuel are, kept aside, you are not promoting self-view, you are not creating self. So even while living, there is no arahant. Even while living, there is no Buddha. There is no Tathagata. So then, how about passing away? After passing away, is there a Buddha? Is there a Tathagata? So these are very interesting questions. Actually, tomorrow also we can discuss about this in the Yamaka Sutta. Same theme. Hoti Tathagato Parammarana, no Hoti Tathagato Parammarana. So we have that wrong perception. There is someone here, some soul here, some person here. What's going to happen to that person? So that's a kind of a deeply rooted self-view we have. But Buddha say, so this is something ignorantly we prepare time to time. When ignorance is available, we do a lot of fabrications, we do a lot of preparations, and you might feel, I am living, I am so and so. And we give a name to that, we attach a label to that, we stick a label to that, we give a name, I am so and so. By putting a label, does that mean that label represents something substantial? Very solid core? Say, so you put everything together and you assembled a car. Now you give, okay, my Toyota Corolla. Is Toyota Corolla available? Where is it available? Now we have a name. Okay, Venerable Chandaratana. Where is Venerable Chandaratana? Is my head, bald head? Is the bald head Venerable Chandaratana? Or the robe Venerable Chandaratana? Tummy now have a trouble. Is that troubled tummy Venerable Chandaratana? Or the thoughts, perceptions, words? Which one is Venerable Chandaratana? How about putting everything together, and is that everything Chandaratana? So these are the questions actually very interestingly asked by Venerable Sariputta from Venerable Yamaka. So we can discuss it tomorrow. So how he is breaking the personality view in a person. So time to time, what happens is, we give some prominence to any of these aggregates. And then we attach to that. As a result of that, we feel, I am. This is myself. Oh, this is my Dhamma sermon. Say you are watching YouTube and you are a great singer, and someone is sending a link without indicating what it is, and you click on it. Now it is playing, and now your voice is coming. This is myself. I am the one singing it, isn't it? So immediately the self come out, the personality view comes out. You identify with it. You strongly attach to it. Now the strong sense of I pops up. So constantly we have to attach to one of these, either form aggregate, either feeling aggregate, either perceptions aggregate, formations aggregate, consciousness aggregate, whatever it is. If we attach to that, if we strongly cling to that, then you may feel I, myself, I am. How about not clinging? If you are maintaining a mind free from clinging, free from grasping, during that period, where are you? You can check. So these all different names, all these different concepts have their, the kind of relative value just to communicate, just to talk within us, to communicate within us. They have their relative value. That's enough. That's all. Other than that, even though we attach to those names, labels to all these different processes, that labels does not represent something substantial. But ignorantly we think it is available. I am. So this is very interesting and very deep Dhamma. So we need to recognize within ourselves time to time how the sense of I available, how kind of a personality view may be available, how the strong I comes up, to which are you attached to. These are something that we can recognize. So at that moment, if we can recognize, okay, to which I am telling as myself, to which aggregate. So kind of a practical application that we need to do. When you feel some strong I, now as I mentioned, say a song. Say for example, you have spent fair amount of time and built a house. And once you see that house, what a time I have spent to this house. You see, you can get that sense of I, isn't it? Previously you are just maintaining a very peaceful mind, but now your mind get crowded with it. You got, clung to that. And you feel, I did something. That is my creation. That is my effort. So likewise, many things are available for us to create a self, a personality view. But the more we maintain our mind unattached, non-grasping, so the possibilities become less and less. So you create nobody in a way. The personality view becomes slowly faded away. I creation, mind creation, the conceit I am become less and less. Ahankara, mamankara, mananusaya, I creation, mind creation, the conceit I am become less and less. So mind remains very calm, quiet, still, clear, unattached, but no sense of I. You are not trying to show off. You are like a maybe innocent person, that's enough. You may be continuing as a human being. So in this state, so Buddha highlights that anupada vimutta, te suvimutta, they are utterly freed, completely freed. Te kevalino, they are the consummate ones. Ye kevalino vattan tesang natti panyapanaya. So when they are completely freed, so all that typical terminologies going to that direction, this direction, here existing after death, blah blah blah, not applicable. Okay, this is something interesting that you can think, so don't get confused. And with that, I like to conclude today's Dhamma sermon. Thank you very much for attentive listening. We have two, sharings of merits. Today, breakfast dana from Damayanti Senadira. Merits to my late parents and blessings to Swamin Wahanse and the yogis, including me. Afternoon dana was offered by Dishna Ranasinghe with the aim of transferring merits to her mother on her birthday and wishing both parents and yogis good health and many opportunities to practice Dhamma. So these are the short sharing of merits we have. And today also we have spent fair amount of time trying to develop various spiritual qualities. And again we have participated into a Dhamma discussion and listened to a Dhamma sermon. And all these merits what we have accumulated, let's share these merits with all the past relatives, with celestial beings and whoever in need of merits. And we wish these merits help us also to understand Buddha's teaching and to be free from all suffering. While keeping these good wishes in our mind, let's recite the traditional verses. Ettavata amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe deva anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata amhehi sambatang punya sampadang sabbe bhuta anumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya. Ettavata amhehi sambatang punya sampadang සබ්බේ සත්තා අනුමෝදන්තු සබ්බ සම්පatti සිද්ධියා ආකාසට්ඨා ච බුම්මට්ඨා දේවානාගා මහිද්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරං රක්ඛන්තු ශාසනං ආකාසට්ඨා ච බුම්මට්ඨා දේවානාගා මහිද්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරං රක්ඛන්තු දේශනං ආකාසට්ඨා ච බුම්මට්ඨා දේවානාගා මහිද්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරං රක්ඛන්තු මම් පරං ඉදං වෝ ඥාතීනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතයෝ ඉදං වෝ ඥාතීනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතයෝ ඉදං වෝ ඥාතීනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හොන්තු ඥාතයෝ ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බානපත්තියා ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බානපත්තියා ඉමිනා පුඤ්ඤ කම්මේන මාමේ බාල සමාගමෝ සතං සමාගමෝ හෝතු යාව නිබ්බානපත්තියා සාදු සාදු සාදු